more can I say?
Top Billin. All right, Top Billin, your boy is back, aggravated as hell. Right, I've done part 1 and part 2 on my man Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens, the hardest team in the league, and these haters are still out in mass. So what I'm going to do this time, right, I've already gone through throws, right, as far as showing this man thinking the game through, being able to get through his tertiary read and hitting a check down countless occasions, being able to think the game through from the pocket, and then also make something from scratch, being able to create and throw some of the prettiest throws that you'll ever see, product placement on point, everything that you can think of that people laud other people for, or they celebrate what other people are doing, they won't give this guy credit for doing. So we still had on part 2 plenty of haters come out because, first of all, they don't even watch content, right? They're on the microwave society. They see a title and something, they think YouTube is a message board when at least I am. I'm putting a ton of quality time into what I'm doing and presenting a very valid argument and supporting it with film. Imagine that. You're on here from the go along, get along gang, as my man Kwame Brown says. You're from the go along, get along gang, parroting what people are saying on Twitter and TikTok or some shit. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, come on, you cannot be serious. And with that being said, they still will come, right? They're like roaches. You can't get rid of a hater. They'll be forever here until the end of time, so it is what it is. It doesn't mean I'm going to sit on my hands or throw my hands up and be like, hey, hey, I'm not in it or whatever like that. I'm still going to fight the good fight for Lamar Jackson because he's an incredible talent. And I think this guy is going to do huge things in the NFL, and he's already been a damn MVP. The youngest MVP, and it was a unanimous MVP, right? Was he the first ever unanimous MVP or something like that? The youngest, his production is incredible. He's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but we cannot disregard what he can do. He can do everything everyone else can do, and he adds a different element to the game with incredible athleticism as well. You cannot have his athleticism override what he can do with his brain and with his arm. He can match all that together and have his brain and his arm work with those legs to make himself a weapon X like no other. Let that sink in. Incredible success as far as his win-loss percentage, the Baltimore Ravens with him as a starting quarterback. So all these people come in here, man, I'm going to quell some more on these dumbass parroting, go-along, get-along gang haters and like that, and we'll compare it from historical context with a couple of guys. And, of course, I'll address my man Michael Vick, why a comparison to Michael Vick to me is crazy as well. I love Michael Vick. Matter of fact, man, let's go ahead and get into it, boy, because your boy is agged. First comment I'm going to address is from this cat, Glock. Now, Glock didn't do anything wrong. I just think that Glock's mindset is representative of a lot of people, and while it can be perceived as a positive to some people, I think it's the reason why Lamar is being held back and not being mentioned amongst the greats, especially if we're talking about what he can do with his arm. Remember, I'm only talking about what he can do with his arm and his brain. I have not done anything on his athleticism. So we'll get into a little bit of that. But if you see what Glock says here, people hate on Lamar for nothing. It's crazy. We haven't had a QB like Lamar since Vick, and people don't like seeing something like Lamar is a special player. Y'all should give him his respect. So I don't necessarily like that. Now let's keep this into perspective. This is how neutral I am when it comes to football analysis. I love me some Lamar Jackson. I love me some Baltimore Ravens football, and it is what it is on that standpoint. From that standpoint. However, it does not matter when I'm doing analysis because I am neutral. People can say, oh, Murf, you're a Baltimore Ravens fan. Murf, you like Lamar Jackson because he plays for the Baltimore Ravens. You never heard me talk about the Baltimore Ravens before until after the draft. I usually do not like to cover shit that I am a fan of because I don't want people to use that against me in analysis. That's just how I chose to operate in my career. I'd rather cover stuff that I'm not a fan of, and I can be completely objective about that. But it does not matter. If I'm covering something that I'm a fan of, I am completely objective about it. That's just, I would do that shit to my own mother, to my own wife. I'm going to be objective about it because I want my analysis to be able to stand on its own and not be rooted in some type of fandom. These other cats, they have those type of problems. I don't have those type of problems. All right. So talking about Michael Vick, obviously you can see I'm a huge Virginia Tech fan. I do not cover the Virginia Tech Hokies for the reason that I said before. People never even heard me talk about the Virginia Tech Hokies. Most people on the internet probably wouldn't associate me with anything dealing with the Hokies. It's just what it is from that standpoint. So Michael Vick obviously is the greatest player in Virginia Tech history. It does not matter. He did not progress past as great as he was for Virginia Tech and as great as he was early on in his career here in Georgia, right? For the Falcons. That man is not on Lamar's level. Not at all. He didn't progress. Lamar is ahead of him in every single aspect dealing with football. There's nothing you can tell me that Michael Vick surpasses Lamar Jackson in. Now, being exciting and everything like that and being the first one to be exciting in that manner, that's cool. He wasn't really the first one to me because I have a long history of watching football and seeing what a guy like Randall Cunningham could do with the ball in his hands, or Steve McNair and these guys who came before Vick. But Vick definitely had another level of excitement because he was so explosive. His arm was the truth and everything like that. But if you're a fan of Michael Vick and you can be objective about it, the guy could not read defenses. He just could not read defense. His arm was live as hell. One of the strongest arms you'll ever see. And he had that little flick motion with that left hand or whatever. That shit was beautiful when it came out of his hands, but it was not accurate. And don't say he didn't play with talent. He played with some really good talent with the Atlanta Falcons. He just did not progress. He did not take the game serious enough. Lamar Jackson doesn't have those problems. He takes the game serious, and we can do this from a statistical standpoint as well. I will compare them statistically, and you will see it's just no comparison. Michael Vick, we know, did not take the game that seriously until later on in his career, but by then his athleticism had waned, and it's probably a little bit too late. He had a really good season with the Philadelphia Eagles, but then you can see it went downhill from there. Lamar Jackson will be good no matter what because he can think the game through. He's a lot better than people are giving him credit for. Let's check this out right here. Lamar and Vick statistically here through the first, from 2001 through 2004 for Michael Vick. I wanted to make it fair because Vick broke his leg, and I forget which year that was. So I want him to have a decent amount of throws. So I went all the way into his fourth year, and that just did obviously the first 3 years for Lamar Jackson. And we know that he did not start out as the Ravens quarterback for the first however many games there. So it's pretty even as far as throws goes, but it's not a comparison. So got 43 games for Vick, 46 for Lamar Jackson. Vick actually had more attempts. Vick's completed 53.6% of his passes. 53.6% of his passes. Now, come on. Let's be realistic about that. Lamar Jackson ain't doing that type of shit. And don't say that Vick played in some Stone Age or something like that. Vick played in the West Coast offense. A lot of similar concepts to what you'll see Greg Roman running with Lamar Jackson, and his quarterbacks and everybody, the coaches and everything. These guys are still coaching in the NFL, are still coaching in football, period. So people always do that, right? Like, yeah, I'm not sure how people's knowledge bank stretches. Maybe a lot of these haters are really young or something like that, and they want to parrot what they think. But 2001 football is no different from 2021 football. Ain't shit changed like Rick James, homie, right? So I love Michael Vick, right? He's from Virginia, but ain't shit to do but cook, pack it up, sell it, triple pipe. But your man right here, I said, man, Bristol, stand up. Bristol, Virginia, in the Tri-Cities area, stand up for your boy. If anybody's listening from Bristol, man, let me know in the comment section. Salute from your boy right here. All right, so 53.6% completion percentage. Lamar Jackson is completing 64% of his passes, man. Lamar Jackson, people talk about his yardage, right? 7,000 yards passing. What did I say? Oh, you want this man to reinvent the wheel? There's only so many possessions in the game, and the name of the game is to put points on the board. The name of the game is to move the ball. He's moving it through the air and on the ground. He's like FedEx, right? He's FedExing that ass, and you guys are still complaining. So he has 7,000 yards, but he also has nearly 3,000 yards rushing. So he's accounted for 10,000 yards, 68 touchdowns through the air. Michael Vick only had 36 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, 36 touchdowns and more attempts than Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has double the amount of touchdowns through the air as Michael Vick. Look at the rating, a 76.9 rating for Michael Vick, a 102.6 rating for Lamar Jackson. Michael Vick is not a good comparison for him. The excitement is there. The athleticism is there. I love them both. I have Michael Vick shoes. I got all kinds of Michael Vick shit. Huge fan of the college that he went to and everything. But being objective, he is not in Lamar Jackson's league. Lamar Jackson only had 18 interceptions. Michael Vick had 26 interceptions. He only had 10 more touchdowns and interceptions. 68 touchdowns to just 18 interceptions for Lamar with a 102 rating. Lamar Jackson had 2,900 yards and 19 touchdowns. So add 19 touchdowns onto that 68 there. And the nearly 10,000 yards accounted for. Michael Vick, to his credit, 2,200 yards rushing and 6,600 yards passing. So he was accounting for some pretty good yardage. They couldn't get the ball. They couldn't score, though. I don't know what to tell you. That's not a good comparison, man. I'm sorry, man. We're going to have to shoot that one down, man. Next up is this cat, Ramon Rivera. He's such a pure passer. He can't even throw for 200 yards a game. Come on. First and foremost, I hate grown-ass men who talk with a bunch of little cute smiley faces and shit like that. That's the sissification of America. You ain't gonna catch me doing that shit. I'm sorry. You think you would catch a man like Ray Lewis talking with a bunch of smiley faces and emojis, sending that shit to other males? You better do that shit with some chicks or something like that. We talking about football, and you using little smiley faces and shit to talk to another male. That's that beta shit. Like, come on. Let's be for real here. I hate that shit. But listen, what pure passer finishes with under 3,000 yards? Dude, the man is accounting for more yards than just with his arm. Now, if he was a pure pocket passer by the standpoint of he only could stand in a pocket and couldn't create with his legs, then I can understand that. He's still putting up over 4,000 yards in a season and a crazy amount of touchdowns accounted for. The object of the game is to win the game, right? First and foremost. But the object of playing quarterback or being the general of an offense is to move the ball by any means necessary. He's doing it through the air, but you have to account for what he does on the ground as well, and you have to account for, I know you never played football, Ramon Rivera. There's only so many possessions in the game. You're not going to have 200 possessions in the game for this man to both throw for 500 yards and then run for 200 yards or some crazy video game type shit. Get your ass off a video game and go play some actual football in where you have to strap up and hit and shit like that, right? And you know what I'm saying? Some of you dudes strapping up and hitting, you know what I'm saying? It ain't that type of hitting. And some of you dudes putting on pads and shit that say Kotex on them, and you're definitely one of them right there. We're going to have to shoot that one down, man. All right, this dude is on hallucinogens right here. He said, okay, Top, let's compare 2020 stats, since this is about passing, not rushing. Baker, 26 TDs, 8 INTs, 3,500 passing yards. Lamar G3. Lamar G3? You're going to put Lamar in the same category as Robert Griffin? "26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, blah, 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 blah." Okay? That's I don't understand what this was about. Let's check this out. Now remember, this is Baker Mayfield's best season. His best season looks like Lamar Jackson's worst season as a starter, right? His second season as a full-time starter, where people said the league caught up to him. They caught up to him. Baker Mayfield had 26 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, completed 62.8% of his passes, 3,500 yards right here, nearly 3,600 yards. Lamar Jackson completed 64.4% of his passes, 27, so nearly 2,800 yards here, had a 99 rating. Baker Mayfield had a 95 rating. The league caught up to Lamar, but this dude is championing Baker Mayfield. I like Baker Mayfield. I think he's fun and exciting to watch. I love watching him in college and everything like that. But how is this fair? This is his best season This is Lamar's worst season, and it's virtually identical with some categories Lamar just being flat out better in. So if you look at that and if you take the yardage here, right, 3,500 yards, Lamar Jackson also had 1,000 yards rushing. So add that on right here. He accounted for more yards than Baker Mayfield, who had 165 yards rushing, or it's virtually identical or something like that. Remember I said, right, it's more than one way to skin a cat. You had to account for total yardage. So you can't just go by throwing. He accounted for more yardage than Baker Mayfield still. What are we doing? I'm confused here. 7 touchdowns on the ground as well. So if they both had 26 touchdowns through the air, Lamar added 7 on the ground and Baker only added 1. And this is something you come to brag about? Let's compare Baker Mayfield's best season to Lamar's best season. Right? We already know what Baker did with the 62.8 and all this. Lamar Jackson had 66% of his passes completed. 3,100 yards, 36 touchdowns through the air, another 7 on the ground again, only 6 interceptions. So how much yardage did he account for right there? Let's get it, right? So over 4,300 something yards. And in Baker Mayfield's best season, he had roughly 3,600 yards accounted for. But he's champion in Baker Mayfield. One more. Let's go through the entire 3 years here. Remember, Baker Mayfield started every single game that moment he walked through the Cleveland door there. For the career, he has roughly 600 more attempts or over 500 more attempts, 11,000 yards. Your man Lamar Jackson with 7,000 yards passing and, of course, nearly 3,000 yards rushing. Baker Mayfield has 437 yards there. But look, with all those attempts and stuff like that, he only has 7 more touchdowns than Lamar through the air. 89 career QB rate. Your man Lamar Jackson's career rate is 102.6. That's nasty. That's hard. Think about that. Your man has 43 interceptions to Lamar's 18. I understand he has way more passing attempts, but remember, he has double the amount of touchdowns, over double the amount of interceptions, but he only has 7 more touchdowns. And then you have to throw in 19 more touchdowns for Lamar. Now you can see what I'm getting at here. Lamar is a weapon X who can get it done through the air with the best of them and can get it done on the ground as well. So we're going to end up finishing right here. I know how people are. People aren't going to watch these super long-ass content items, even though I would like them to. Real men watch to the end and then comment. You're always going to have people jumping in right away as soon as the video hits. They don't watch. They just want attention from other males and shit. So, whoa, whatever you're into, whatever like that, that shit ain't got nothing to do with us, baby. Let us real football heads talk about football. Real men watch to the end. And thank you to everybody out there that's been supporting quality content as well. I mean, it's crazy how life works. Lots of support from what is my favorite team, the Baltimore Ravens fan base, being as though I never covered. Well, obviously I covered the Baltimore Ravens first to start my career, then went in a different direction when it started to really get serious, just because, like I said before, I didn't really want to cover anything that I'm tied to like that. So just covering these other teams and just really establishing my career. But it's come full circle here. And you can see your boy right here doing it on his own brand, doing my own thing there. So make sure you support quality content to keep the lights on. Thank you to those who have. A lot of you guys out there supporting, man. And you know the business can't run without that type of support. A lot of things go on behind the scenes that you just don't know about. So don't sit on your hands and think everybody else is doing it. Make sure you get out there and support quality content as well. So your man right here on this last one, this is going to dovetail into another one as well, and I'm going to combine these so it'll get a little saucy on this one right here. So not everybody's prepared for these type of discussions, and I don't give a damn, baby. You up here on Top Billin, baby. We're going to give you the best, and we're going to give you that honest assessment type shit. So I've already talked about this one before, right? This was the kind of the basis of part 2. The guy, Jay Barkley, says Lamar is good, but over Josh Allen, not a chance. So I replied to that, said nobody ever prior to last season. Josh Allen once threw more interceptions than touchdowns and completed less than 60% of his passes for his first 2 seasons. Now, y'all saw Lamar Jackson's completion percentage for his career is 64% and once completed 66% of his passes in his MVP season. So Josh Allen had a great season. I love Josh Allen, one of the most talented, if not the most talented quarterback in all of football, but I think Lamar is his equal, and that's what I'm talking about right here. Let me finish this. It's definitely an argument if you're being unbiased. Lamar with more throwing TDs than Josh Allen, right, for the career, but it's not a chance. Right? So you have to overprove yourself, I believe, as an African-American quarterback, and especially as an African-American quarterback with this right here. Norma Cheryl Washington here makes a point that I had not seen anywhere on this particular channel here. I don't seek out, so I don't like social media. You don't see me on social media. That's just not my thing. So I've not seen anybody say this and not seen this be a topic of conversation anywhere, even on TV or anything like that. She says, LJ8 is too dark-skinned to get respect. Every QB they say is better is either white or mixed and light-skinned. None of them is better, and statistics say most of them are worse. So to compare him to go along, get along gang choices is not impressive, but does serve their agenda. Damn, that's hard. So people aren't ready for some shit like that, because that goes beyond just your normal race relations type thing. That even has to do with something inside the African-American race right there. Definitely something that hits home to my heart, right, as being as though I am a brown-skinned individual, just like Lamar Jackson, just like a guy like Michael Vick earlier as well. But the difference between those guys is Michael Vick was doing stuff that people like, right, or people would consider, like, it's based on athleticism. Nobody's going to reprimand him for being an athlete, because that's what they want to see, right? They want to see you go be an athlete. They'll say all these things right here, and they'll talk about your athletic ability before they talk about your mind and your arm and everything like that, or being able to mix the two of the both. Lamar Jackson's not going to get credit for that, and they always want to blow his athleticism and talk about that, and rightfully so. He's a great athlete, the best athlete perhaps in the history of the sport at the quarterback position. But the shit that he can do with his mind that I outlined in this, and some of the throws that he makes, you have to, I don't know, man, it's tough right there. Go along, get along, gang, and she makes a great point right there. So people come up and they always say, it's not a race thing because Patrick Mahomes, like people like Patrick Mahomes, they give him credit or something like that. I'm like, Patrick Mahomes? Right? Patrick Mahomes is not threatening. Lamar Jackson looks threatening. People associate menacing and stuff like that with people who are darker skinned. You have to overprove yourself if you have darker skin. That's just what it is. If you see a black dude that's light skinned or whatever like that, people aren't going to automatically assume or be afraid of him. You see lighter skinned people will automatically think they look better or something like that, when that's not always the case. Or, you know what I mean? Like, you go by the individual and stuff like that. So you have to kind of over-approve yourself from that standpoint there. And Lamar Jackson shouldn't have to do that. He is as good as anybody throwing the ball. We showed the statistics to even a guy like Deshaun Watson, who I think the world of. Deshaun Watson is the man. That boy can go. And some people were getting on here saying that they would take Lamar over Deshaun Watson. And I was like, hey, wait, hold on now. I was like, wait a minute now. Deshaun Watson is incredible. He's definitely a guy who can get it done from the pocket. We've seen him being able to throw in this. But, hey, Deshaun Watson had weapons galore. He has much better weapons to me than Lamar Jackson had. And his quarterback coach was his head coach. It was a guy known for developing quarterbacks, right? Bill O'Brien and stuff like that. Patrick Mahomes playing for Andy Reid. I had this dumbass up on here talking about, oh yeah, whatever like that. Lamar Jackson has Greg Roman, who had Colin Kaepernick and did all this. Greg Roman is not known for developing QBs. Andy Reid has been developing QBs forever. Some of the best QBs in the history have been developed by Andy Reid. That makes a difference. Your weapons make a difference. But people will not say that for Lamar Jackson. He has to overprove himself. That doesn't make any sense to me. That man That is apt. That's an apt description by you, Norma Cheryl Washington. I salute you on that one right there. You do have to prove yourself, like Patrick Mahomes or whatever. Is he going to look menacing to you, or are people going to? No, he's dancing like, hey, look. Hey, look how I'm doing it. Like, come on, that's not going to be threatening to anybody like Lamar Jackson. People look at Lamar Jackson, it's just what it is. That's just what society has branded it, and this is nothing that's new. Studies have shown, man, you have to overprove yourself the darker you are. So salute to Cheryl Washington on that one right here. And check this out. I wanted to show you Lamar versus these incredible greats to start their career. I wanted to compare Lamar Jackson, first and foremost, to my all-time favorite quarterback, Peyton Manning, perhaps my all-time favorite football player, period, Peyton Manning, and then Brett Favre, a guy who a lot of people absolutely beloved. So I wanted to get it to where they're around a similar amount of attempts to start their career. So I had Peyton Manning his first 2 seasons as a starter. Obviously, he started every game that he ever played pretty much, right? He had that Iron Man streak going on there, so he had enough games. He had 32 games. Lamar Jackson, I did his first 3 seasons. Remember, he didn't start, but a handful of games his first season there. And Brett Favre, obviously, as well, him starting in Green Bay. And you can see here, very similar in the attempts. Lamar has the least attempts out of them. Brett Favre with 993 attempts, Peyton Manning with 1,108 attempts there. But look at this. Lamar Jackson, even though he has 50 less attempts, he has the best completion percentage out of them all. 64% completion percentage. And even though he had less attempts than Brett Favre, he actually had more yards than Brett Favre, right? Through those completion percentages, obviously because he completed more passes. But look at the touchdowns and the interceptions here. The great Peyton Manning, my all-time favorite GOAT, right? 52 touchdowns and 43 interceptions in that time period to start his career. 52 and 43. Remember what he ended up with. All right, he had some of the greatest seasons of all time. He just had an 80.6 rating to start his career. Brett Favre had a 78.4 rating to start his career with 37 touchdowns and 37 interceptions. He had the same amount of touchdowns as interceptions. Lamar was 68 and 18, right? He threw for more yards than Brett Favre. You know, the rushing, we're not even, look at that, 135 for Peyton Manning, add in 414 for Brett Favre, 29, of course, 2,900 for your man Lamar. Lamar with 8 yards, average yards per attempt, Peyton Manning with 6, Brett Favre with 5. If you put this in context like that, man, people are being extremely hard on Lamar Jackson with what he can do with his arm. It just is. People will go, and we'll talk about the playoff thing right quick. Lamar has to get better in the playoffs. I think that'll happen with better surrounding talent on offense or whatever like that. But it doesn't. To me, it doesn't matter. He's so early in his career. People expect people to be Super Bowl champions way too soon. It didn't happen like that. I love Peyton Manning. I watched every single game he ever played off Tennessee. Ever since I saw him at Isidore Newman or whatever it's called in New Orleans on Scholastic Sports, I followed that man. Him and Kobe Bryant, these are my all-time favorite dudes. Allen Iverson and people like that. I followed these guys since high school. Peyton Manning in the playoffs was struggling. Look at this. In this one right here, he had only had one playoff game that he didn't win that, and he threw for 45% of his passes. No touchdowns and no interceptions. He could not. It took him a long time to win a playoff game, first and foremost. Brett Favre at that particular point in time, he had 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, a 60.6 completion percentage there, 89 rating. Lamar has to improve. 1-3, finally got over the hump they did, and they won a playoff game, but 3 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He's just young in his career, and he's young, period. He was 24 years old right now. So he played 23 years old last season. Brett Favre and these dudes was old as shit. Peyton Manning, 4 years of college. Brett Favre, same thing. Same thing with like a Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was a rookie. He was like 30. Right? So, come on, man. Let's be fair to Lamar Jackson, and let's get fair and balanced analysis out there, man, and get that prejudice up out your blood, right? No more go along, get along game shit, at least not up on top billing. We're going to set the record straight, all right? But there you have it, man. Part 3 in the books. Make sure you go back and watch Part 1 and Part 2. Put them bad boys in the queue right there and watch them in sequential order, 1, 2, and 3, and then tell me what you think right there, man. It's probably like 90 minutes worth of Lamar Jackson evaluation going against all kind of different quarterbacks, from Mahomes to Watson to Allen, Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, Kyler Murray, right? I think we started with there. And you can see that Lamar Jackson is good as anyone with his arm. And then nobody's fucking with him with the legs. There's a few guys out there, I think, that has some really good legs as well. Daniel Jones, man, my boy Lieutenant Dan. I've said that shit before. Lieutenant Dan can run his ass off too. But you don't see nobody saying Lieutenant Dan should switch positions. Josh Allen was struggling, throwing more interceptions than touchdowns. Did anybody say that Josh Allen should be a tight end? They say Lamar Jackson is a halfback, or he's a tailback, or he should be a wide receiver. The man don't want MVP. His team don't want to play out game. Whatever, man. You guys have already heard it. Make sure you support quality content. It's your boy, Top Billin, the Underground King, Murf Baldwin, and I am out. Peace.
What more can I say?
Top Billin.